Welcome back. Sticking with our politics lead, a speech full of exaggerations and falsehoods and smears and lies at a campaign rally last night from President Trump in Tennessee. Here is the president on job creation.
If we would have said that before the election, that I'm going to create 3.3 million new jobs, we would never have survived the onslaught from the fake news. They would not have accepted it. They would have said, there's no way you can do that.
Okay, first of all, you didn't create those jobs. But beyond that, 3.3 million is certainly good, but it's hardly unbelievable. In fact, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, during President Obama's final 18 months in office, 3.9 million jobs were added. Now, on the subject of wage growth.
Wages, for the first time in many, many years, are finally going up. Wages are going up.
Wages, as a matter of fact, have been rising 2+% on average since 2014. Then there's the subject of Mexico paying for the border wall.
They're going to pay for the wall, and they're going to enjoy it, okay? They're going to enjoy it. They do nothing for us.
Mexico's president made his response crystal clear on Twitter. President, real Donald Trump? No. Mexico will never pay for a wall. Not now, not ever. Sincerely, Mexico. Parentheses, all of us. In a new column, the Washington Post's Dana Milbank goes so far as to write of President Trump, quote, calling him a liar lets him off easy. A liar, by definition, knows he's not telling the truth. Trump's behavior is worse. With each day, it becomes more obvious he can't distinguish between fact and fantasy. It's an illness, Milbank writes, and it's spreading, unquote. Let's discuss with Dana Milbank from the Washington Post, who now joins our panel. Dana, you're obviously not a doctor, and yet here you are diagnosing illness here. Did you go a little too far, maybe?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I do occasionally play one in the newspaper. But no, I mean, look, I was doing a colloquial comparison, saying, you know, and using the Madman characterization. That's not something you'd find in the DSM. You wouldn't get reimbursed for it if your doctor put it on your prescription form. The idea, though, I have talked with a lot of brain scientists, with a lot of psychiatric professionals. You can't diagnose the man. Certainly, I'm not a doctor. Even doctors can't diagnose him if he's not on their couch. What you can say is looking at the situation, what's going on here. And, you know, the clips you just played are certain things, well, you can quibble, you can argue, but the president is often saying all kinds of things that are very easily to disprove. He'll say that it was really sunny when it was raining out. He'll say that his net worth is affected by how he's feeling, like it goes higher or lower depending on how he feels about it. What it indicates to me, and the people I interviewed for this, is that this is not a guy who knows what the truth is and is saying something otherwise. He seems to be so comfortable with what he's saying that he very much seems to believe what he's saying. Whatever came out of his mouth, he seems to believe to be the truth.
Now, as a fellow student of Trump and Trumpiana, you, of course, are familiar with what the president has referred to, I think, in The Art of the Deal, but maybe it was a different book, as truthful hyperbole, the idea that he says something that is not factually correct, but the point he's making is clear. Is that not possible in terms of what's going on here for some of these claims?
Well, I think it's related to that. And, you know, the ghostwriter for that book said he was struck. He said more than any person he'd ever seen, Trump has the ability to believe that what he says is true, or at least partially true, or at least ought to be true. So, you know, he clearly, you know, he does it so well that he seems to be convinced of this. When people lie, there's a sense of discomfort that comes with it. That's what stops us from lying all the time, according to research. But if you do it more often, it's like the scent of a perfume. It becomes there's less and less pain involved in the lying. It becomes easier to do, and it seems that the president does it with such facility. He does not even appear to be aware that he's doing it.
David Urban, Dana Milbank calls President Trump a madman in this article. I suspect you disagree.
Oh, of course I disagree, and look what Dana's doing there. Notice his opinion appears his article appears as an opinion piece, not a news piece, because it is that. It's Dana's opinion, and the title, he uses hyperbole. Madman is Dana just said, he's not a doctor. He can't provide a diagnosis, so he's using hyperbole in the title and throughout the article. So I agree with what you said, Jake, earlier, based upon the book, that the president does engage in truthful hyperbole and does it frequently. However, I will push back on some of the notions that you cited from the speech there the other night. I mean, the American economy, by all accounts, is doing extremely well. Consumer confidence is at the highest level it's been in roughly 20 years. Unemployment's down. Stock market's put about $5 billion on in terms of market cap. So the economy is doing well, and the president. His statements last night.
So why not just stick to the facts?
Well, they're truthful hyperbole. Well, because those things are factual. Wages have increased, just like your.
I'm not
your
fact checking you. I fact checked President Trump.
No, but your graph just showed wages did increase and have been increasing. Now, have they been increasing as dramatically as the president said? Perhaps not. Has job growth continued on? It has continued on, just like you pointed out. Maybe not as greatly as the president said. So what he's saying is not factual. It is just hyperbole.
Van Jones.
You know, I remember when Trump first got elected, people started talking, I thought, in shrill ways about 1984 and Orwell and all this sort of stuff. But we are now having a conversation in which adults are going along with the idea that there's something called truthful hyperbole. If your kid came home and told you, Dad, everything I told you about last night, it was truthful hyperbole, you would say, no, you're lying, and you give me the keys to the car. Why are we in this world now that we have a completely separate and lower standard for the commander-in-chief than we would accept from our spouse, from a coworker? Yeah. Like, I mean, we're out here spinning the spin off the spin. And at some point you have to say, as a committed conservative, this is not the right way for a grown man to conduct himself. We can't make excuses for this kind of stuff. And I think the conservative cause loses some of its moral authority when it is now no longer expecting individual personal accountability to be truthful from the President of the United States, but you want that for everybody else in the country.
So let me bring it, David. I want to let Mary Catherine. I want to bring Mary Catherine into the conversation. Mary Catherine, we've talked about this before. President Trump tells a lot of lies.
He does. By the way, I get a lot of truthful hyperbole in my Twitter feed every day, and I'm probably getting it right now. No, I think, look, he lies about big things. He lies about medium things. He lies about little things. He does it casually. That's why I was thinky face emojiing Van Jones, because he sounded like me a couple years ago when I was pointing all of this out when he was on the trail. I do think one thing we don't deal with enough is why people accepted that. And one of the reasons they accepted that is because the media and people who report on people like Trump and people right of center have gotten things wrong about them for a long time, sometimes gotten things wrong with an agenda. And there are a couple things this week that happened. For instance, all the pictures that went around of unaccompanied minor children in what were called cages, and the logistics of moving these unaccompanied minors around when they crossed the border, that many people, many in journalism, claimed were from the Trump administration and used it to blame him, and yet they were from the Obama administration. They just didn't care that they were from the Obama administration then. The other issue is this argument they had about the paraphrasing of the spokesman from the White House, and the journalist turned it into, oh, he's saying a White House spokesman doesn't exist. I don't think he was actually saying that. I think he was saying the White House spokesman didn't say impossible, which if you listen to the audio, it turns out he didn't. And I don't think we do ourselves favors by going there.
Everyone stick around. We have a lot more to talk about. We're going to pick it up right after the break. Stay with us. The White House says President Trump is much too busy to weigh in on the controversy over Roseanne's tweets. But want to bet? Stay with us.
The president simply calling out the media bias. No one's defending what she said. The president is the president of all Americans.
That's Sarah Sanders explaining why President Trump tweeted earlier today, quote, Bob Iger of ABC called Valerie Jarrett to let her know that ABC does not tolerate comments like those made by Roseanne Barr. Gee, he never called President Donald J. Trump to apologize for the horrible statements made and said about me on ABC. Maybe I just didn't get the call. My panel's back with me. Van, your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think that the bias that the media can sometimes show is an issue. But this was an opportunity for the president to talk about a different kind of bias, which is racial bias against African Americans who have been routinely and repeatedly referred to as animals, as apes, as monkeys for a couple of centuries now, often as a dehumanizing precursor to exclusion from jobs, to racist violence. And he once again never misses an opportunity to lead. You can be both upset about media bias and upset about racial bias, and you would expect the President of the United States to at least try to speak to the pain that was caused by this horrific comment. And by the way, Valerie Jarrett is somebody I work for. I know her personally. You can disagree with her politically, but she is a class act and should never have been subjected to that kind of comment. Nobody should, but to go after someone like her was beyond the pale, and I'm glad that ABC took appropriate action.
Mary Catherine, it would have been an opportunity for President Trump if he had come out and decried the comments that Roseanne made as racist and unacceptable. But Van says he never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
Sure, that would have been a thing he could do. But, I mean, I think he's interested in whipping this up. He's interested in speaking to the people who are defending Roseanne. This is a clear line. What she said was so obviously over it, and she was punished for it because the company involved is like, this is going to hurt our bottom line, even though you have a very popular TV show. So she paid a price for it, and I'm a free speech absolutist almost, but sometimes you pay a price for these things when you say them. And no, I don't think the president is looking for that particular opportunity. Yet, I agree with Van that the media bias can be an issue and the double standard can be an issue, and you can believe both these things at the same time.
Look,
David Urban,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, look, there's no way to defend what Roseanne Barr did. She's been offending people in America since her career began. I mean, I could go through a laundry list of just items that Roseanne Barr did. But let's take a step back, and Van, I think you can agree with me. This president just recently, let's talk about the things he has done to move kind of race relations forward a bit, with the pardoning of Jack Johnson for a ridiculous crime, a violation of the Mann Act for transporting his then white girlfriend across state lines. I mean, that was an injustice. It was just been righted. Ridiculous. It took so long. Prison reform, Van. I know you were just at the White House talking with the president and working with the president on a prison reform. So while he may not have taken the opportunity here, he didn't take the opportunity to condemn Starbucks either, what they did. But the president has done things, concrete things, not words, but actions. He's taking concrete actions in ways that affect African Americans every day.
Look, I think you're quite aware that when he does good stuff, I give him credit.
Well, go ahead and say it, Van. Let me hear you give him credit.
Listen, I've given him credit many times when he does good stuff.
For those two things.
Hey, listen, I'm glad he's working on prison reform. I'm glad he did the thing with Jack Johnson. But the symbolism from almost 50, 60, 70 years ago versus the symbolism of today, we need to hear him be just as upset about today.
I'll say it again.
Yesterday.
Roseanne Barr, unacceptable.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Coming up, a horrifying going to me now. David Urban, let me start with you. Is that the reason that the president won't fire Jeff Sessions, with whom he's clearly unhappy, because Republicans on Capitol Hill have said we're not going to replace him?
No, Jake, I don't think that's the reason at all. I believe that the president believes that Senator Sessions is doing, or Attorney General Sessions is doing a great job on a wide range of fronts. Immigration just to be one of them.
Mary Catherine Ham, the New York Times reports that President Trump, quote, told aides that he needed a loyalist overseeing the inquiry. That's a quote of the Times story, not of the president. Why? Why would the president need a loyalist overseeing this inquiry?
Well, it's partly because he thinks about everything that way, and he wants a loyalist everywhere. And he doesn't care that it sounds improper if you're talking about an investigation that you're involved in. But some of this is just like, so what else is new? Like the improbable campaign to make Jeff Sessions sympathetic to all parties in America continues apace, and it feels like watching a soap opera where you tune out for a while and then you come back and you're like, oh, nothing's changed. Stefano is still kidnapping Marlena. Like it doesn't change. It's not going to change. And by the way, cheers to checks and balances if the Senate is indeed saying, hey, hold up, we're not going to do this for you.
Van Jones, I want you to listen to another part of what Congressman Gowdy said about President Trump and the FBI's confidential source who looked into what was going on with the Trump campaign. Take a listen.
I think when the president finds out what happened, he's going to be not just fine, he's going to be glad that we have an FBI that took seriously what they heard. He was never the target. Russia is the target.
So it sounds to me as...
I find that a very curious way to describe this, Van. The idea that Gowdy is suggesting that President Trump hasn't found out what happened yet, like he has no idea?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel sorry for Trey Gowdy in so many ways. He's trying to be rational and reasonable in a completely bizarre situation and circumstance. It is, in fact, true that the president himself said that if there's somebody that ever got involved with my campaign that was dealing with the Russians, I want to know about it. And so, as Trey Gowdy pointed out, the FBI is going about its business trying to figure it out. And the president is flipping his wig. And by the way, you know, Brother Urban was saying earlier that he hasn't fired him because he's doing such a great job. He's not tweeting saying he's doing a great job. He's not. Sarah Huckabee Sanders didn't come out today and say he's doing a great job. But she refused to defend the great job that he's doing. And so I feel sorry for Trey Gowdy or any political professional trying to function in this environment where it's nuts all the time.
Well, David, let me get you to respond to that, because
Sure.
I don't doubt that I don't doubt, David, that you think Jeff Sessions is doing a great job, but there's really no evidence that President Trump thinks it. The only stuff he says about him publicly is criticism, and in fact, in that New York Times story, it describes President Trump giving him the silent treatment.
Look, I think we've seen when the president doesn't like a cabinet member, they are dismissed. And you saw that with the Secretary of State and with others. And so I don't think that the president's pulling any punches here. I think on balance, he believes the Attorney General is doing a great job. I think that he wished that he wouldn't have recused himself in regards to the Russia investigation. I mean, look at why the Attorney General, if you go back and rewind the tape and think about why the Attorney General recused himself, it was because of a handful, I think 3 or 4 meetings with the ambassador, for the Russian ambassador. And I don't mean meetings, I mean he shook his hand at a reception at the Republican convention. Ambassador Kislyak may or may not have been present at a speech that Attorney General Sessions gave. And I think he made an office call to him one time during 2016. Those are the reasons I believe the Attorney General recused himself. And I think that the president was frustrated by that.
Mary Catherine, President Trump must know that there was no spy embedded in his campaign. Now Trey Gowdy is supporting the truthful description of this, that's not a spy. Even people like Judge Napolitano, who's generally a Trump supporter, has been saying it's not true. Why does he continue to say this? Is it just about getting his supporters to believe that he is the grieved party here, the aggrieved party?
No, I think he believes it. And I think he knows that it winds people up as well. And look, I think the truth is somewhere between the idea that federal law enforcement never goes too far and never does anything wrong, as we've seen by some of the IG reports that have come out through this, and the idea that they were undermining politically a political campaign with political spies. I think it is a little deliberately obtuse to pretend that a confidential informant meeting up with a presidential campaign isn't a thing. That's a thing. And we should be a little concerned about why it happened and what were the reasons. But the fact that Gowdy, who cannot be accused of being any sort of squish, and who knows a lot more about it than many people do, as he's been briefed on it, is saying this, I do think is really important.
Right.
But
Ben
hold on
Jones?
a second. I don't usually disagree, but on this, I don't get it. If, in fact, it turned out that in any campaign, there was a credible rumor even that there was foreign interference, and the FBI goes, nah, we don't care. We're busy eating our popcorn, and that would be the thing. The FBI investigates. Hold on a second. The FBI investigates all kinds of stuff all the time. That they
and you allege that they do that correctly all the time?
No. But I'm saying
don't overstep.
No, hold on a second. I never said that. But the idea, which I don't understand, is that an investigation of a credible allegation that a foreign power has penetrated a campaign, that the FBI looked into that is a bad thing, or is a scary thing, or is a weird thing. That I don't understand. The FBI has done all kinds of stuff I'm against, but that I can't understand how anybody would think is a bad thing.
Van, I agree with you. I think it's a good thing. The FBI should be on the watch for those types of things, but as Mary Catherine points out, specifically when it involves a political campaign, when you've seen all these types of things being done on this campaign, back and forth, the ball being knocked back and forth by Comey, depending on what side you're on, you either love Comey one day or hate him, and you think about Ted Stevens, you think about Kurt Weldon, and some others who have had their campaigns submarined by the FBI.
What
only
would
to
you
listen.
want
Wait, no, hold
to
on, Van.
happen?
Only to be then exonerated, months and years later after they lost their campaigns. I mean, I think deserves further scrutiny. And that's all I'm looking for. I don't think that there's a spy involved.
Van Jones, final word.
Yeah, I just wonder, what would you actually want the FBI to do if they heard about something like
No,
this?
man, I agree with you. Listen, I agree. Go and investigate, but I think there needs to be further scrutiny, more transparency. I think Mary Catherine's statement about it's a little bit, it's in the middle someplace there between nothing and something. I think there needs to be sunlight shown on this, and until there is, I think American public's going to be very skeptical.
I'm pro sunshine.
All right,
And
everyone,
I think
stick around. We have a lot more.
Campaign because there was some rumor a bunch of people would be mad in the opposite direction.
Everyone stick around. We got a lot more. We got a lot more to talk about coming up. Release the tapes. That's the demand Stormy Daniels' attorney is making after lawyers for the president's fixer, Michael Cohen, confirmed that there are audio recordings of Michael Cohen talking to other people. Are those tapes really that important? Is this just a stunt? We're going to talk to Michael Avenatti next. Stay with us.